What is good, guys? This is Charles from Team COG, and we are back from the Cash Money Tournament. Me and my boys drove all the way up to Montana to enter into what they call their states, which is a non-sanctioned, like kind of like off-deal circuit that they do up in the Montana area. People from all over come over from like the Midwest, Fargo. We had people from Bismarck, from Colorado. Like we had a lot of people, I believe, and we come from Nebraska, of course. So it was a really fun event. Sadly, we did not make top 8, and it was top 8 cut off for the payout and everything. We ended up getting 11th, but out of the whole squad that went, out of all 4 of us, 3 of us ended up going 4-2. And RIP to my man Jason. He did his best. He died so that we could go on. But anyway, so the deck, this ain't really gonna be a deck profile for you guys. It's gonna like go over, talk about my matches, like certain things that happened, opinions, like changes I'm considering and stuff. I guess there is like a new card that did come out I was able to get since it was Rhoda, a sneak peek and stuff like that. But just like kind of a discussion video and go over like the highlights and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a 6-round tournament to break in the top 8. Actually, let me pull it out here. I actually have the rounds written down here. To start out with, please remember, if you guys want to help support the channel, you can do so by hitting that subscribe button, dinging that notification bell, and becoming a member, get knighted, get awesome perks and rewards and stuff like that. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the rounds, okay? So at round 1, we had a cash pile, which this was like strange. It was like Kashtira, Snake Eyes, Adventure, there was like another engine that it's Fiendsmith. It was just a pile, man. It was insane. I had one hand trap and I didn't even know where to throw it. And I ended up throwing it, and he just still like went crazy and did stuff. But here's what else is crazy, guys. Throughout the entire 6 rounds, I didn't win a single dice roll. It wasn't until my round 5 when I rolled something higher than a 3, and it was a 10, and I was like, oh, for sure, I got it now, right? And then he rolled an 11, and I was like, oh my god. But out of all the games out of all the rounds, we lost every dice roll, but I won every game 1 except for 1. And I think that's tremendous showing to a deck that's considered to be like a glass cannon. It's supposed to go first. If we go first, we win. If we don't go first, we struggle. That's insanely crazy. But anyway, round 2 was Fire King. I took a loss there. That was pretty crazy. That was like a 2-1. Fire King just game 1. I unpermed the Ponix. He ended up setting 3 passing. And then one of the sets was the Skyburn, which was an interruption itself, and then 2 imperms, and just like that's like 3 forms of disruption. That's kind of crazy. Like we couldn't play through. We ate 1 imperm, we were good. We ate the Skyburn, but the second imperm, excuse me, just did us in. Then we played against a round 3, a Tempai pile. Like this was interesting. He won the dice roll, then normal summoned out Pedro, and I looked around. I was like, there ain't no field spell protecting him, and you're going first. I was like, oh, maybe he's just like not good in a way. I've never heard of Tempai going first unless like it's like a side strategy. I've never heard them blindly going first. So I smack imperm. He goes into Fiendsmith line. He summons out the Chandra, goes into Moon, links into Fiendsmith stuff, and then ends on just Caesar plus a set Kaiman. We draw for turn. We draw Tactics. We end up activating Gearfried, baits it. We go Tactics, steal, and then we end up just smacking on Dark Knight Lancer on top of the Caesar, and it's GG from there. And then we ended up taking that one, a 2-1. Then round 4 was Memento. This deck was kind of crazy. I opened the best going first hand a guy could ever want. I have to go second. I can't beat what Memento puts up because it's like a pop 2, and that removes our body. It's something we really struggle against is when they remove our bodies, and we struggle against that. I go into the next game. I open a pretty okay hand that loses but beat Droll in a way. I open Uppercutter plus Spar, and I normal summon Spar, don't use the effect special, and that's what kind of kills me is because he had Droll in that game too, and if I would have been able to search with Spar, I would have just made the Baguska, and even he himself was like, yeah, if you did Baguska past that, there's no way this turn I could have handled it, and I was like, wow, but since I opened Spar, I had to play into the Droll, which is because I didn't know it was coming until after I searched with Dempsey, and that was just kind of, it is what it is. Round 5 was Chimera. Huge shout out to my man. He was an Infernoble fan. But I just really just kind of opened the stones against him. And of course, we lost a dice roll, but Tactics and cards go pretty deep. In Perm, of course, like there was an issue, which I'll talk about when I go like through the deck list and everything that I will talk about. But for the most part, I just drew 1 hand trap, which is crazy. But 1 hand trap, In Perm on the big Berfomet, I think, which adds 2, and he had a set and pass. We go into game 2, and I just don't have enough to push for it, so on the game 3, he opens no hand traps. We hard open Roland since we side it, so our end board is literally double Charles, the ability to go into Dark Knight, Gearfried with Angel Ring being equipped, so like he just didn't stand a chance, sadly. Round 6 was a Snake Eyes. This was it was kind of a scary matchup in a way for me because I hate Snake Eyes. I think the deck should have been slaughtered more, and it's still kind of crazy what it does, but you can definitely see where the limits does hurt the deck, I guess I should say. You hard open Popular, it is kind of rough. But essentially, that was I went to go first. I just ended up playing through his board. He ended up hand trapping me incorrectly. Game one, he did brick, but well, mostly it was because he like went bonfire search the what is it? The Snake Eyes Ash normal summon. I was like in perm, and he's like, huh, well, okay. And then he's like pass, and then I just played through his hand traps, and he just hand trapped me incorrectly. And then game two, he went first again. I dropped Droll on him. He ends up just messing up his line, where he, since he already opened popular, he had to like do it differently, and essentially he just ended on the what was it, the silhouette hat, and with Flameburge out there, and I think IP. So then like my turn comes, he moves IP up, I end up going evenly, and then he ends up oddly enough, he ends up banishing the I can't think of the name. He ends up banishing the Flameburge, but keeps the trap card that was set by what do you call it? That was set by the Silhouette Cat. Silhouette, that card only stops inherent summons, I believe, which was really good because like I was pretty well good. But anyway, it was pretty crazy, man. We ended up doing that, and then we ended up drawing. It was like evenly plus like Lightning Storm, so it was GG there. Rounds, and that was it. That was all 6 rounds. I haven't written down my notes. Like didn't win a single dice roll. So the deck performed phenomenal. I'll quickly get into it. Like I said, this is not a deck profile, so I'm not going to go through it too much. I'm just going to talk over like certain things, like I will change and everything. If you guys really want to get a more in-depth deck profile, definitely go check out my my deck profile that I uploaded. And yeah, let's just jump into it. It's a 41 card deck list, so like you do have space if you want to increase the deck count to like 45 cards, which I talked about before, so you don't see your bricks. But I didn't actually, I think I opened the trap card one time, so like it was really good on my part. But for the most part, guys, you know that we're playing this engine. This is the best engine right here, the Uppercutter. I'm not going to go into it because you know my opinion of the Uppercutter engine. One of each of the names. Malgus stayed glued in my hand pretty consistently, actually, which was kind of upsetting. And then for the non-Infernoble, we got the Gearfried, and then we got the Black Witch. I guess these are kind of honorable mentions in a way, like these do it. I did kind of, there's a few times I did miss Flint Lady because sometimes like I would open combo or like a way to museum, but no, and a way to like get Boxer. But now that only line that we do is through, if we hard open Ricky Ardetto, we go Ricky Ardetto, search, go Ricky Ardetto, normal summon, use access to museum, search Durandal equip, search Boxer, link into Anima, banish this, summon out, and go combo. So like I did kind of miss that line in a way, but the way I have this set out, guys, is we will do engine, and then we'll do engine, the non-engine, because like I think that's really important. So then moving on to the spells, there was triple Chalice. Chalice is nice. It's a flexible card that I learned. So this is the equip spell lineup. I thought I would miss Joyous. I thought I'd miss it. Actually, I didn't miss it at all. In fact, the only complaint I have is that sometimes when you open like our museum plus one of the equips, it does make like your second museum kind of useless. So you have to like manage your resources and shuffle back the Malgus. In some cases, that's nice because you're playing against such a spell. Like there's a lot of spells and power spells. So like when you send Malgus, you're not sending Gearfried, so you're going to potentially get to end on double Charles with the Dark Knight. And that's okay, but if you're playing against like a not so spell heavy matchup, like it does kind of suck having to sacrifice the Gearfried. But that's entirely up to the player discretion. Like you decide what you want to do. You decide like how you want to do it. But this is the one card that came out in Rhoda. The Reincarnate Unveiling Mail. This card's always treated as an XYZ card. You search it when you get your use at Dempsey. You smack Fortress. Fortress searches this in the trap. And I mentioned it before. We were playing this card right here in its stead. But this card has a little bit, just a tiny bit more synergy with the deck, with it being an equipped and stuff like that. It allows the one card combo, since you're not playing Joyous, to work because of Gearfried and everything. It triggers Angelica, and whatever it's equipped to cannot be destroyed by battle. And I'm going to say probably like 1 out of like 100 games where you get to use the card's actual effect to like smack on an XYZ, but like it could come up. And then here's like the triple wanted, and then the one for, and then the OSS, and then Rhoda, and then finally here's the one trap. I didn't realize this card came as an ultra rare until like the 10s were released, and I should have got it ultra, but I'm kind of happy I didn't because it was ultra. I'd probably see it. I wish this card would have came super. This card's kind of crazy, but there's nothing really I'd change in this lineup here. Sadly, with the Asmenia cards coming out, like I think that we will follow suit with the OCG, and we're going to see Witch in this go to 1, which isn't terrible. It just kind of gives us, in a way, like two more flexible spots to put stuff in. But this and it's just kind of bittersweet, right? We're getting like a crazy good engine, but we're like, the Witch has always done what the deck has really enjoyed, and it's just kind of sad that in the future, unless they directly hit the Omni Negate, which TCG might, but I definitely could see that this hit coming. And I hope that I hope that they do follow the OCG and they do limit this and limit this, because that would still give us access to superior extenders like this. But yeah, Wanted's an insane card. It really is. But that is it for like the main deck engine. Are the trap cards really nice, guys? Don't forget, like, this allows us to beat like board breakers too, in a way, because if, you know, going first, since we're siding Angel's Ring and stuff like that, like being able to flip the trap and like still get a disruption, still not bad. Just do keep that in mind. So here's for the non-engine. I was on to triple Ash Blossom. So in my deck profile, I did triple Nibiru, which I did kind of miss, and I messed up, and I should have got punished for it, but I didn't, and I'll explain why. And then here's triple Imperm, and then here's triple Crossout, and then here's Tactics and Call By. So Drolls got put in because I felt that Droll is a higher impact card that's easier to attain. I felt like Yubel and Fire King and the Snake Eyes decks could play under Nib, but I felt like they really couldn't play under a Droll. Like, the first action is normally search ad, whereas like it takes a little bit for them to ramp up to get to Nibiru. I wanted a card that was instantly high impact instantaneously, and Droll was that. It also hurts us in a way. There's definitely lines that we can play to play around Droll, but most of the times, man, if you open a hand of like Heritage plus Wanted plus Museum, you know, or something like that with Durandal, or like Uppercutter, like Droll hurts. Most of the time, if you normal summon Uppercutter, you get hit with Droll, you make Baguska pass, depending on your hand. So like it being another like a dual purpose with Crossout being able to hit it was also really nice. Imperm overperformed. I always see Imperm, and here was the issue that I had that I talked about in the video. I'd see two non-engine, but I'd either see one of these and then one of these. Now Tactics is okay because Tactics like acts as a board breaker, but that was something that was interesting about the event, was that I saw Tactics only once, and I was actually considering cutting it. I was like, well, I could just cut Tactics and play something like Phantasme, like if you guys didn't see the day 2 Infernoble. I was like, that would do me a little bit better because it'd be forcing out these like SPs and IPs and everything like that. But then Tactics literally won me a game by drawing me 2, and then it won me games by being able to steal the Caesar. So Phantasme, like this event, I had no one really linked on me. I'm not even fooling you guys. Like, no one linked on me, and there was never a time when I was linked on where I opened any of these 3 cards where they could have been Phantasme. So like, I feel as though Phantasme might be just a good call for like a higher tier event, but something like maybe regionals or lower. Maybe even regionals, it's good. So I was a lot more happy having this, but Crossout's insane. I feel like in this format, you have to play Crossout. You just have to. And until Konami decides to address the amount of hand traps that exist in the game, I feel like we're going to have this card at 3 for a while. But Crossouts, especially with all the Snake Eyes stuff going around, you can cross out OSS, which is really, really good. Or Wanted, like you have a lot of like overlap that Crossout can hurt as well. But I do think Nib should have been, spoiler, Nib wasn't in my side deck, but Nib should have been in the side deck, and I really did not get punished for it, and I should have, because there were so many times I played into Nib and I didn't get Nibbed. But there is something to talk about, though. I know that in the recent set that new Impulse card came out, and that card is really insane, really nice, but I'm really struggling to find room to play it. I mean, you could, of course, increase the count to 44 cards if you wanted to, and then, of course, you know, you limit your chances so you don't see the XYZ or the Reincarnation Mail, but then that's getting back up in that higher count range. I felt like this performed really consistently. I felt when I was playing a higher count that, yeah, I didn't see my bricks, but I also wasn't seeing like my starters as consistently. So I think that 40-41 is a good thing. So is there space for it in this deck? I don't know. I feel like Crossout, since it's mandatory, you have to. And arguably, you could maybe cut these 3 cards out and just play the 3 of it, but Tactics does so much for the deck. And I feel like this deck is so brittle, or some hands can be so brittle to hand traps, that a draw 2 and a steal is so good. So I don't know if that card, me and Javier, I think is me attempting to pronounce his name, talked about it, and it's just like the card's good, and we can play the card because we're fire, but does that mean we should play it? It's almost like the Dominus Purge thing. Like, certain decks that play Dominus Purge that could play it well, like Melodious, but then some decks just kind of didn't play it even though they could, you know, because it was just the deck building and the space and everything. So I don't know yet. I've seen a lot of like players incorporate it, but I don't know if they're playing Crossout. And if they're not playing Crossout, I feel like they're really either goated or they're not getting hit with the 3 hand traps every turn that I'm getting hit with. So that's enough. That's like another discussion for another day. So that is probably the only card from Rhoda I'll be picking up is the Dominus Pulse card, because Pulse is really nice. And I even thought, like, arguably, like, you could cut something down to incorporate it into the non-engine that we have right now. Like, you could cut, like, maybe something like this and fit it in. But it's my OCD. Like, you could definitely make it work. Playing 2 ofs is not good. But another thing to talk about, actually, good thing I did this because I almost forgot, is there is a way for us to beat the new Maxi, Full Walrus, however you pronounce it. And that is by these cards right here. So if you don't have money, you don't want to go drop like $150, and I'm telling you, this card is going to go up even more. But if you don't want to go drop $150 on that card to make it a cross-out target, or you don't want to just go pick up 3 of it, I've been watching OCG trends, and Droll has been used to counter it quite well. You will see coming up that there's either going to be everybody and their brother is going to either frame 1 drop that card, or they're going to wait for you to commit a little bit and then drop it to ensure that they get a draw, which both ways I believe are correct. I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. But Droll allows you to Droll. You need to have Ash, either Ash the card, or you need to have Droll. And the reason that I've actually really got liking to Droll is I've done a lot of testing where in a lot of hands I get hit with that Needle Chummy, and I have Droll in my hand, and I literally do all my searching, and then I will give them the 1 draw that they get, and then I Droll. And they only got 1 draw, and I have already searched everything I need to, and it's just, you gotta like see those lines and really like try to like think real properly, so that way you can draw. I know it sounds kind of crazy, 2024 and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and we're going to draw ourselves on our turn to ensure our opponent doesn't draw a lot. But it is definitely possible, and that's where you get some cool stuff with like Durandal, right? Like Durandal being able to reborn something gives you a little bit more extension to play underneath your own draw awkwardly, but you still get to put up something. You're not giving them like because they would get a lot of draws, man. They would get like 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, even if you try to place as minuscule as you could, that you get a draw from Dempsey if you open your normal combo. Dempsey, Angelica, Roland, Charles. That's 5 draws. And that's you playing conservatively. So, like, just giving them that 1 draw, it would be kind of cool. And like, that's something else to tell, like you would technically, if you still need to get to your museum, you could still go into Angelica before you commit into like other lines, give them like 1 or 2 draws and still get your museum, use museum's effect to search, and then activate another museum, or, give museum's effect to search, and then draw yourself. Like, you just got to play correctly with this card. And I think like these cards are going to be mandatory for those who don't want to play, or who want to combat the full Aris but don't have like the funds or the budget to drop $150. And I just think that's wild. Like I said, I watched some OCG players where they literally drilled themselves. I'm like, they're wild, but they literally did all their searching and they played underneath their own draw. Like, even though it was different decks, so like every deck functions differently, but you're drawing yourself and it prevents them from getting a draw. So like, it makes them pretty much break even, you know what I mean? And in a deck like this where we play so well, and the boards we put up are like one of the few decks out there that actually will put up hard negations. Now I know Mermail will do it now moving forward, because Mermail is going to be kind of crazy. I actually think about picking up that deck because it's water. It's Noble Knights, but like water, which is kind of cool. But they have a lot less. They have like more, or excuse me, they have less non-engine spots than we do, and that's kind of like pretty cool. But dude, yeah, guys, I think moving forward, Droll and Ash will be pretty good, especially countering that Falaris card if that card takes off, which I believe it will. And you just need to have answers to that card, because that card that's game changing, dude. They drop that on you, and you're like, either you lose the game. And since the card's going to be a lot of people's budget, you need to have ways to combat it, and that's what these cards do. If you do, like I said, you could go spend, what is it, like $150 to get 1, so then you can cross at it. But if you're anything like me, you're going to draw your 1 darn full walrus with your cross out, and you're going to get a hit with it. So at that point, you might as well buy 3. You could probably even look into picking up the new one now. Or not the new one, the old one now, because I think it's fairly affordable. Field Center rocked it all day. Charles was with me in spirit. I didn't even sort the extra deck, really. There's nothing really I would change in the extra deck. Not a single darn thing. The Zeus performed phenomenally. I did kind of miss the Flame Swordsman once, but like, it's okay. Oh man, I lost it. So here's the crazy thing I didn't even talk to you guys about is, against the Snake Eyes player, like, I almost won that, but time, dude. Time rules are such garbage, and they need to be addressed. I think there's got to be a way for Konami to fix, like, time rules without giving it like this, because literally I played through the entire Snake Eyes board, or the Fire King board, and then when Hida stole his Popular searched me my own OSS, sent it, summoned Ricardetto, brought back, went into Angelica, got Museum, looked at the clock, there's 30 seconds. I had no way to combo forward and win the game, because I was going to lose, because I was going to pay 12. And Konami just needs to address that, essentially. But outside that, nothing I'd really change in the extra deck. I was really, really pleased with everything here. So moving on, we'll just go into the side deck. So the side deck, of course, I've showed this before. The perfect side out for your Battle and Boxer. There was a last minute hesitation. I kind of thought, well, maybe I should get rid of this and like the side deck, keep the Boxers in, because like you don't need your battle phase to break a board, and I kind of proved that in a way with this because like Dark Knight taking a card, Charles popping SP banishing, like that's 3 forms of removal, and some of them are non-destruction removal. Like that's kind of crazy. So like you could potentially, and you're building such a very established board that on the crackback they can't really get you. But I decided to keep this in, and the only downside is when you see Rise Heart. But even seeing Rise Heart ain't crazy because you just go normal summon Rise Heart, special Riki Ardetto, special your tuner, Synchro into Angelica and combo. But for this event, I saw Finra a lot more, which was really nice. We did Lightning Storms and Harpies. I like the flexibility of Lightning Storm being good against both back row and combo. This is where this should have been Nib, or this should have been like more cross-out targets. A Dark Ruler didn't really do anything. And the times I do Dark Ruler, evenly did the job. Like I didn't even have to go Dark Ruler evenly. Like you think like Dark Ruler, Lightning Storm, Dark Ruler evenly is really good, but without the form of like hard negations existing out there, Dark Ruler just seemed like lackluster. This should have been Nibiru, so then like I know going second, putting in Nib, no one respects Nib. Not a lot of decks can like handle or set up anything like that. It 100% should have been Nib, so that way I also could have cited it in 1 or 2 copies of it when I knew I was going first, so that way I didn't get nibbed, and that was just a huge mistake here. But this will be Nib at the end of the video. Like I am going to change it evenly. You got to make the playing field, you know, even. Not much more can say. This card always went in deep, and then the last 2 cards is Ring and Rollin'. And pretty much, man, when like you know you're going, when you take their game 1, that's what I noticed all day. I was taking their game 1s from them, and then going second, that's okay. But in game 3, I got to go first, and that's when these 2 cards came in. And I think I resolved the whole Rollin' line a few times. It was mostly, I think it was like once or twice I actually like sent Roland off of Ogier to do that line end on this, but most of the times I hard opened these twice, I think. So it was literally at the end of the turn, I like did my full board and then just equipped Angelica to Charles, and they're like, oh my god, and then like it just turned off their droplets, turned off their Dark Rulers. And then there was one time where I hard opened this, so I was able to send the gear free because I had access with Roland to send that. So anything outside of the change in the side deck, I don't really want to do this. I had like an existential crisis right before the tournament. You like ask even my friends, like I was like, I don't even know the correct ratios. Like, is 45 a good number? Should I go back to 40? Should I even side this? Do I need to side that? And it was kind of like an existential crisis because I just didn't want, I was just struggling to figure out the ratios and stuff because I feel like maybe Crossouts got in my head, but Crossout's such a needed card for this deck that it was kind of like warping my deck building. But I feel like I'm pretty safe with it now. The only thing, like I said, is maybe we pick up that Impulse and play the deck at 44 cards and play Impulse because, like, Impulse is going to be played by a lot of decks. I really like the direction that they're going with Impulse and stuff like that, like those type of hand traps. But I think that that card, like, it just makes deck building, like, a little bit, like, that's probably the change, like, I would do post-Rhoda, is finding room for Impulse. Maybe you don't need it, but there's also like a world where I kind of like, if the Mulcharming card didn't exist, right? Like hypothetical, if that card didn't exist, I would even consider getting rid of Ash and just playing the Impulse, because playing Impulse and Permanence would like stop you from getting Talanced. Whereas like, you don't know how many times I've like Ash someone with my one hand trap because I would just draw Ash plus Cross out going, you know, second, and they like Talents draw 2 and like still do things. But like I said, I'm not too sure how Impulse will fit in the deck if you want to fit it in with Crossout. I think maybe if you want to do that, I got to let my OCD aside and like look at going at 2 of names of non-engine, but I hate going to 2 of names. It's just like, it kills my OCD. But we'll even see, like I said, like it also might not even be necessary to play in the list because like, you know, it can only be played by like certain decks, and as long as those decks kind of like stay in like rogue status, we shouldn't be getting hit by them too much. But I do know that card also hits Angelica, and that's like the choke point. That's the entire point of playing Ashes and Imperms is so that Crossout can stop them from hitting her Angelica, and that's just another card that can hit Angelica, so it might be worth playing. It was actually, I know that we're getting far into the video, but like I said, this is a discussion, so if you don't like it, get on out of here. There was a world where we actually talked about playing 1 Crossout, 1 Tactics, and 1 Call By, and that would give us 3 extra spaces, and then essentially you don't have to worry about drawing 2 Crossouts or 2 Tactics or 2 Call, well, you can't. If you're drawing 2 Call Bys, you're cheating. But like, there's a world where you would just play these 3 cards to counter hand traps. But there's just so many times like Crossout's just better than Tactics and Call By because they in-perm you. At least you can designate in-perm and stuff like that. So I think that Crossout's just mandatory, man. I think it's just mandatory in our deck list, and I wouldn't say that. I don't think anything's ever mandatory in our deck list. I think if you want to succeed and do well at a higher end event, Crossout is mandatory because of the amount of hand traps that these other meta decks can play. But if you're just playing at locals and you don't have this card, you don't want to play it, I think you can just get away with playing the 2 tactics and the call by or 3 tactics. So anyway, guys, that's it for this ramble. Like I said, the event was awesome. A huge shout out to the Montana boys for hosting the tournament. It was a blast. Hopefully next time we can go up there and not bubble. But also, I guess my man Caleb, he actually didn't bubble. The 3 of us that went 4-2, he got literally 8th place and made it in there. So huge shout out to him for actually, representing. So yeah, guys, that's it. If you guys have any comments or concerns, put down below. Let me know if you guys have any ideas or alternatives to the things I talked about. Like, let me know about your guys' opinion of Impulse. I want to know, like, what other Noble players' thoughts processes are of those, because, like, I don't know how I feel about Impulse. Like, at first I was really gung-ho about it, but then once I started looking at the deck lists, I was like, do we even have space to even play that card? But anyway, thank you guys for, coming to the Noble Knight TED Talk here. So stay safe, stay healthy. This is Charles from Team COG, signing out.